Congratulations, Ross. So you were the winner of the Innovation in Surgical Site Infection category at this year's Journal of Wound Care Awards. So please could you describe to us the work that you and your team have done which resulted in receiving this award?
Yeah, thank you. So our projects have investigated telemedicine, which is the remote diagnosis of surgical site infections. And this interest started out as a method for improving improving adherence to follow-up research trials. And it's now become its own work stream to improve patient care and practice. And there's been a lot of great work in telemedicine and surgical site infection in recent years, highlighting numerous benefits such as reduced travel, early diagnosis, improved experience. So we started out this work by reviewing literature to find out what the accuracy of this method is at diagnosing infections, and this helped to establish what problem gaps there were and what we could investigate. So at that time, there were 17 studies with over 11,000 patients, and this showed 3 distinct methods of telemedicine had been researched, and these included photographs, telephone, and questionnaires. Overall, telemedicine's pretty good at identifying infections, but excellent at identifying patients without infection. But none of these studies had combined methods to see if they improved the accuracy of diagnosis. And further, diagnosing infections is a complex construct. There are a number of methods of doing so, but each has subjective elements. So our innovation has been to develop a remote diagnostic measure for surgical site infection, combining wound photographs with patient-reported questionnaire. Patients would complete the questionnaire and send a wound photograph to their surgeon, who will review the image based upon the wound-specific characteristics in the questionnaire. This then provides a score of infection or no infection, which can inform remote or in-person management. We involved patients with prior experience of the post-operative care pathway, who both had a history with and without infections in the development stage, and that helped answer key questions around the acceptability and usability of our proposed innovation. That work was funded by the NHR Surgical MedTech Cooperative, which helped provide the necessary resources required. One of the key incentives for utilising telemedicine are the green benefits, and the NHS is and will be pushing for this in the Net Zero 2045 targets. Alongside the development of the diagnostic measure, we've also run a pilot carbon emissions project modelling this, and that looked at the emissions for a simple clinic visit. So a patient reviewed by the surgeon, but no additional investigations required. And we compared that to if that patient was reviewed remotely using our remote diagnostic measure. And in that model, telemedicine reviews would potentially reduce carbon emissions by up to 98%. And that project was funded by the Royal College of Surgeons Recovery and Rose Trees Trust. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And how do you think that winning this award will affect your work in the future?
It's fantastic to receive recognition for this work. I'm really grateful to the Academic Vascular Unit in Hull and my supervisors, Professor Chatter, Mr. Smith and Mr. Carradise, whose support made all this possible, and for the Journal of Wound Care for the recognition. It was, like I said, really, really great. We're still at a relatively early stage within the stream of projects generated, so I think it's really highlights the need and desire for that evidence-based remote follow-up. Winning this award, I think, reaffirms this need and for these ongoing projects to improve patient care.
And what is the most important aspect of your work and why?
I think so having a validated remote detection measure for surgical site infection enables confidence in diagnosis, improved patient experience, reduced cost to both patients and healthcare providers, and is good for the environment. So I think this provides a platform for which other practitioners can utilise, both helping their patients and meeting those national green targets.
And what are currently the main challenges that you are facing?
I think one of the main challenges we considered was patient buy-in, which reflected in the early patient involvement work. So this is incredibly informative, with patients highlighting their preference of remote follow-up over face-to-face, feeling reassured that if their wound was reviewed by their clinician using photographs and questionnaires, and they were content to share images that even might include sensitive areas, such as in vascular surgery with groin images with their clinician. And then one of the ongoing challenges, I'd say, includes marginalisation of certain patient groups. So again, within the vascular group, many patients are elderly or struggle with digital literacy. And on the patient-facing aspects, complex systems that would require an application download or a login or a sign-up risks that these might be unable to complete or comply with remote reviews. So we're looking at a patient-friendly interface to support that remote diagnostic measure, enabling all of the patients to engage with this remote follow-up.
And my last question for you, Ross, is what advice would you give to wound care practitioners and researchers who are aspiring to make a positive impact within their field?
Again, I think I can't overstate the importance of the patient and public involvement. For me, it helped identify key challenges. It showed that some of the challenges we thought were going to be a large factor were not actually the case, and helped inform the design of studies. It also helps keep the projects patient-centered, focused, and funders like it too. So it helps gain the resources required to complete the projects and obviously, hopefully, benefit patients.
So, why did you support this award?
Thank you very much, Selma. SSD are very proud to be supporting this award again. For the last few years, we've done that now. We feel the whole of SSI is an untapped area, and there's still loads to be done in terms of reducing infection, of course. So we're very much keen to support any innovations, but then beyond that, the increase of awareness and then also improvement of best practices. Which is why this year we're actually very proud to be working with Kylie and the International Surgical Wounds Complication Advisory Panel as a joint award from both of us, because we also feel very important that we must work very closely with practitioners rather than just our voice, because it's not about that at all. So yeah, very pleased that Kylie has accepted the invite to do this. We'll
Great initiative.
Yeah.
Yeah, the synergies work really well with ISCAP and with what SSD are trying to achieve. And it's about generating that awareness but improving outcomes, particularly for surgical site infection. And I think that's what's so special about this award, is that it's acknowledging those practitioners, the scientists and the researchers about making that change, measuring the outcomes and making a difference. And it's pushing the boundaries, bringing research into clinical practice. So it works really well. So we're excited to partner together to sponsor this category.
What do you think defines excellence in wound care?
What a question. Gosh, depends who you ask. I think if you think about the patient and put the patient first and being able to care for them and heal and listen to their needs, I think that's excellence. However, there's nothing wrong with excellence in research either. As a scientist, you've got to propel things forward, but you have to do it in a way that is recognisable around the world. So an international standard of research and delivery of those outcomes. So I think excellence spreads the gamut when you're looking at surgical site infection. It's not only dealing with the patients, it's also how you do clinical practice, but also how you do research to translate those outcomes.
I would sum it up as never standing still, always aim to improve, exactly as Kylie said, about putting the patient at the centre of this and organising the healthcare system around it to make sure those outcomes are improved, but never standing still. You know, I'm not resting on, okay, that worked for me 10 years ago, therefore it'll still work. No. We're all changing. The environment, people, patients, the comorbidities are changing, so we can't stand still.
Mm.
What do you think is the biggest challenge currently in wound care?
Oh, you go, Rod.
Okay. I would say resources. there's a constant change in terms of disease states going on, the threat of bacterial resistance as well. But the resources to be able to do that are becoming more scarce because of the spread and the demand of it. So to be able to deliver that excellence in wound care, getting more best practice, more awareness, and then spreading out, I think is part of that. So I think that's part of the challenge within here. Skill levels are definitely increasing, but the spread of those skill sets is probably tough. And we're talking global here, of course. And there's a huge range, yes, and there's some excellent centres, but there's also some areas where they're at base one, they're starting out.
I think from a surgical site infection prevention, one of our biggest challenges is AMR, or antimicrobial resistance. And it's good to see a lot of research and activity and awareness generating activities in relation to this particular type of conundrum. But I think also it comes back to basics. We still haven't got some things right. Adoption of evidence-based practice or evidence-based guidelines. So there's lots of opportunities around education, core competency frameworks, and implementation of those in the clinical practice that is still a challenge in some regions and some countries.
And what do you think will have the biggest impact on practice and research in this area of wound care in the future?
Oh, I love that question. That's that crystal ball gazing question. I love it. Biggest impact. I think we're seeing a lot in terms of novel diagnostics and novel technologies that are changing the paradigm on how we assess and diagnose a surgical site infection. There's a lot of exciting technologies coming through using fluorescence, other technologies such as visible dressings where you can see the interface, the wound bed, and the patient can get engaged with self-management of their wound. But it's an exciting frontier. We're learning more with biomarkers as well. So I think science and technologies are going to play a big role in increasing the use of that in diagnostics, but also AI and artificial intelligence forms for prediction of those at risk of SSI and SWD.
I would throw in evidence in there as well, actually. So great that technologies and solutions can help that, but proving that they change the outcomes and they create new pathways of care to deliver that. So yeah, definitely the technologies and ways of thinking can be at the heart of what happens here, but proving it as opposed to just here it is something different we can do. It shouldn't just be about that. It must be about proving those changes happening. And that's where ISCAP and the experience there. And to me, it's all about the collaboration between the academic side, the healthcare professionals, industry, patients, payers, all collaborating together to make sure those outcomes are delivered in that right way.
Yeah, because we can only achieve these things if we work together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Interprofessional, interdisciplinary, and with industry.
Yeah.
So my last question for you is, what advice would you give to clinicians and researchers aspiring to make a positive impact within their role?
It's a team sport. Research is traditionally a solo pursuit. However, you can go a lot further if you work together, and you must lean on your colleagues who have expertise in other areas that you may not know about. So say, for example, ethics applications or clinical trial study designs. It's really important to engage those experts early on and work together as a team. Yeah.
Never give up.
Yeah, that's very true.
There's so many challenges that we talked about, resource, but just skill sets might be available, all those elements, and outcomes might not go as preferred or expected, but the belief is so important, and exactly as Kylie said, team sport, collaborating, networking, and bringing in others that can help that and inspire you when maybe stuff gets tough, but also to praise you when there are successes as well. We're in it together. You said earlier, we're in this together, all of us. It's not about just one person, and so we all help each other here as well.
We go further together, don't
we? We do.
Absolutely.
Always.
Yeah,
always.
Exactly. Yeah.
Thank you very much, both of you.
Thank you.